when it ends and I start doing the Q&A?
23 minutes. We're about to go live on YouTube, by the way.
Okay, let's go. Let's mute
Thanks.
ourselves.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Roon ARC webinar. My name is Michael. I'm a product manager here at Roon. I joined the company about 8 months ago, and I have been focused more or less exclusively on building Roon 2.0 and making ARC a reality. So I could not be more excited to share it with you today. So in today's webinar, we are going to take a look at what ARC is, how it works, and some common questions about it. I will give you guys a quick product demo so you can see the ARC interface for yourselves and some of the fun things you can do with it. And then at the end of the webinar, I will be joined by Roon's Director of Product, Mike Fass, for a Q&A session. And there will also be a few members of our support team on hand answering any questions that you're posting in the Q&A section. So feel free to ask those questions directly in the webinar in the Q&A section, and we will do our best to get back to you. Cool. So in summary, I personally think that Roon ARC is the most exciting software release we've had to date. It seems like people are very excited about it so far and cannot wait to share it with you all today. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So to kick things off, I'm going to play a Roon 2.0 intro video from our CEO, Enno. So this gives a pretty good overview of the latest updates in Roon.
Roon is the best music player for the home. It's compatible with all your audio gear, it's optimized for sound quality, and it provides rich information and opportunities to discover music. Until now, the only thing that really prevented Roon from being a complete music experience is that it only worked inside your home. Today, that's changing. With the introduction of Roon 2.0, everywhere will feel like home. Whether you're in your car, at work, or traveling, you'll have access to your library of artists, albums, playlists, and tags, no matter where you go, right from your phone. We've built a brand new app called Roon ARC, which is free for all Roon subscribers. It's designed from the ground up to be reliable even when your connection may not be. for example, on a 3G mobile network. While it's completely new, Roon ARC will feel very familiar because its user interface is based on the Roon apps you already use. Roon ARC connects to your Roon core over the air, giving you access to all your files and streaming content no matter where you are. If you have files in your music library, you can think of Roon 2.0 as a personal streaming service powered by your Roon core. At times that you're not connected, like on a plane, Roon ARC lets you store files from your music library on your phone for listening offline. Along with additional enhancements like native support for Apple Silicon, Roon 2.0 brings an amazing music experience to more people on more platforms. And Roon ARC truly gives you all your music everywhere you go.
Let's talk the basics of ARC. First thing is that Roon ARC is a brand new mobile app. It's separate from Roon Remote, and it's designed for out-of-the-house usage. 2, it's an extension of your Roon. So the entire Roon library that you've spent all of your time curating, building up, tagging, etc., all of that is what is contained in ARC. So it contains all your music, all your metadata, and all your history, everything that your Roon is now on the go. Roon ARC is free for all Roon subscribers, so there's no additional cost. It's a part of your existing Roon subscription, or if you're a lifetime member, it is a freebie for you. And lastly, it is an app available on iOS and Android. Great, so I have another short video for you that explains a bit more about setting up Roon ARC and the actual technological structure of it. So let's take a look.
Roon ARC gives you the freedom to experience your entire Roon library and Roon's most powerful features without compromise, wherever you are in the world. To use Roon ARC, your core must be running Roon 2.0, which you can confirm on the About tab of Roon's settings. Roon ARC is designed to connect to your core from outside your home. In order for that to work, your home network will need to be configured to allow this connection. Roon can automatically configure most networks without manual setup. Simply go to the Roon ARC tab in Settings and look for the Ready message with the purple tick. If you see this, you're ready to start using Roon ARC. If you don't see the purple tick mark, don't worry. Most networks are easy to set up with some simple manual configuration. Head over to our Help Center for more information. Now that you've set up your core and configured your network, the next step is to download the Roon ARC app for iPhone or Android phone. Once you've downloaded ARC, log in using your Roon credentials. ARC will then sync to your Roon core and you're ready to go. In order to use Roon ARC outside your home, remember that your core must remain on. However, music that you've downloaded to your phone will be available for playback even if it's not connected to your core, for example, in airplane mode. For further information on using Roon ARC, please visit the Roon Help Center.
Awesome. So now that we've covered what Roon ARC is and how it works, it's time for a little product demo. Okay, so here's ARC. It is, once again, your Roon app developed for a mobile form factor for on-the-go usage. So I have all of my same Roon stuff here. I've been listening to a lot of music recently on my Roon desktop, and ARC has that plugged in. So just one thing to call out, as we've said before, ARC is an extension of your Roon universe. It's now available to take on the go. So all of the data that you see here is the same Roon data that you would have on your Roon desktop. So brief kind of tour. We've got the home screen here with recommendations, recent listening trends, all of that good stuff. This is very, very similar to the Roon home screen you will have seen in the desktop version. If you click on the bottom here, we've got three sections. We've got home, search, and library. So on search, I can type in, let's say, Animal Collective. I've been very interested in them recently. I've got a bunch of results here. Once again, very similar to how you're used to using Roon. Okay, wonderful. And then if we go over here, I've got my library. So I've got all of my albums, artists, tracks, composers. I can see my playlists I've recently made, downloaded content, all of that. Wonderful. So that's kind of a brief tour of ARC. Now let's talk about how you'd actually use it. Okay, so let's talk about some ways that you might use ARC on the go. So for example, I have a trip coming up this weekend and I know I'm gonna be in the plane for a few hours. So I have a bunch of local music that I want to download for this plane ride. So let's talk about how you might do that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my library in the bottom right. I'm gonna go to albums, and I've tagged a bunch of this on my Roon desktop already. I downloaded it, imported it from Bandcamp, and then I add this tag to all these records which says download for Paris. So now I know this is kind of the to-do list of downloads here. So let's open up this first album. This artist is Fumo Ninja. They're like a tiny indie rock band here in Lisbon. And I really like this record, bought it on Bandcamp, and I want to download it. So there's two ways. I can either open the album, and then in the top right, I have my download icon. Click that, boom, now it's queued up, and I have the circular progress indicator telling me how much progress we've made on that download. And I can even see down here by track which tracks have been downloaded yet. So that's one way. Or if I want to kind of go on a shopping spree, here in my browser, I can right click on something in the context menu. I've got the download option there. Boom. Note, again, these will only show up for local options, but any music on your core is firmly eligible, and I'm gonna shop for some of these here. Wonderful. I'll grab this Call Super single as well. Okay, so imagine I'm in the airport, I'm at the gate, I've got like 10 minutes until my flight is leaving, and I want to just grab all of this music. So I can pop over to my downloads menu here and just see what I've got so far. And I think once all of these are done, that's probably enough to get me through this 2-hour flight. So just a couple notes on how downloads work for ARC. The first of which is the format in which we download music is exactly how it appears on your core. So for example, this record, once I go to that, I have it downloaded in 48K 24-bit. That's exactly how I grabbed it from Bandcamp. That's exactly what's on my core. And so that's exactly what will show up in my device. So we don't do any manipulation to the files, no transcoding. It's exactly how you have it originally. And one other note is we want to be mindful of not blowing up people's data plans. So by default, we only allow you to download on Wi-Fi because we know some of the files can be fairly heavy. But if you want to override that, you have the option to do so here in your settings. So you can flip it off, and then boom, when I'm on the go on a mobile network, I can download whatever I like. Cool. So that is how you download in ARC. Okay, cool. So let's talk about some ways that you might use ARC to discover new music on the go. So for example, I am going to go see Panda Bear and Sonic Boom tonight because they've just released this new album called Reset. I'm a big Animal Collective fan, really love Panda Bear, but this Sonic Boom guy I don't know too much about. So first things first, I'm gonna add this to my queue, their new album. I've got it 96K coming from Qobuz. Awesome. I can plug in my DAC, my headphones, and listen to that in bit perfection on the go. Let's just take a spin and learn a bit more about this Sonic Boom guy. So I can click on the artist, I can see the overview here, I can see his info, his discography, all the same data that's in Roon. But let's just go to the overview for a second. Okay, I've already got some of his albums in my library, not gonna lie to you, I went shopping already for some of his new stuff. However, let's pop over to his discography because I want to learn a little bit more. So he's this British producer guy. I read a bit of info. Seems like he has a bunch of different side projects. Very, very cool. But on appearances, so it seems like Seven, the record by Beach House, which is like one of my favorite bands, seems like he was involved in some way. So I can read about this record Beach House opted to work with Sonic Boom instead of long-time producer Chris Cody. That's pretty cool. Okay. He's credited here. He was a producer on this record. I did not know that. Okay, wow. So, I made a tag earlier of Sonic Boom stuff because I want to kind of do my homework on this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and add this record to that. Save for later. I'm going to have a big listening session and just kind of like go into this guy's back catalog later. That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's say I want to also check out this side project, Spectrum. So it looks like this is, let's see. This is from 1992. This is their debut album. Great. So this seems like pretty instrumental stuff. So I will go ahead once again and add this album to the Sonic Boom stuff tag. Fantastic. And now, once I'm kind of prepping for my listening session, if I go over here to albums and I filter by the Sonic Boom stuff tag, I have all of these records that I've just now learned of from Sonic Boom here in my browser, and I can just kind of listen to them one by one. Cool. So, whereas this might have been a process I could only do at home, now I'm listening to one record, I'm listening to this Panda Bear Sonic Boom thing, and just by clicking through and browsing and observing the connections, I learned that not only this Sonic Boom guy has been involved in 3 other bands, but he also co-produced one of my favorite records already. So there's a lot to do with both discovering new music and rediscovering music which you already have in your Roon library using ARC.
Okay, so let's move to the FAQs now. The first topic I want to cover is port forwarding and network security. That has been the most popular, most frequently asked questions so far. So the first component is port forwarding safe and secure. So port forwarding is a common protocol that's used in many applications. It's used frequently in gaming, it's used in Internet of Things, it's used frequently in home security. So if you're setting up a baby monitor, if you're setting up a security camera to watch footage of your house from an outside network, all of these tools will rely on port forwarding. So Roon has chosen this protocol to establish this outside connection to your core. Secondarily, what security measures does Roon take? First, Roon authenticates your user credentials and uses an encrypted transport. So what this means is that nobody from outside your network without your password and username can access your Roon. Secondarily, the port is only listening when Roon is off. The port is only listening when Roon is on. If Roon is off, no one is listening at that port. So if you have someone who has somehow discovered what that port number is and is pinging it, if Roon is not actually on, it's like a phone that is ringing and no one is ever answering. Lastly, some users would prefer to set up their networks manually and don't like using UPnP. And if you are one of these people, you are more than welcome to simply manually set up your connection. There is a UI to do so, and we have guides on our help site for navigating most router configurations. Okay, second question, data usage. I don't have much data. Will ARC use up my data plan? By default, if you leave ARC on automatically pick best quality, this takes that consideration into account. So what this does is if you're on a Wi-Fi network, ARC will automatically pick the highest quality possible. And if you're on a mobile network, it will automatically pick balanced. And what this is roughly 320 kilobyte per second streams. And at this setting, 1 hour of streaming will use about 100 megabytes of data. So choose whichever setting is most appropriate for you. If you'd like to change it, yes, you can control it. The preferences are available in settings, and you're able to customize streaming quality on mobile and Wi-Fi networks. And lastly, how can I minimize data usage? The first recommendation would be to use the bandwidth optimized setting. Secondarily, you can download music directly to your device and listen offline. And third is you can flip your device into offline mode by just going into settings, looking for the offline mode switch, and flipping that. Downloads. So what can I download? Due to licensing restrictions, Tidal and Koba's audio cannot be downloaded. However,
Arc can download any local audio directly from your core. In what format? So the original file in its original format is downloaded directly from your core to your phone. There's no transcoding, there's no alterations. It's exactly as you have it attached to your core. Okay, so let's talk about Arc's audio capabilities. First of all, can Arc play bit-perfect audio? On iOS, we've confirmed bit-perfect output to USB DACs, supporting DOP playback, MQA DACs, etc. And on Android, Arc will deliver audio at the highest possible rate allowed by the device. This is usually 48K. We ping the device to ask for its base rate. However, if you are looking for the highest possible quality, a USB DAC will usually allow you to output at a higher rate than your Android device. And this is all to say, we are currently focusing on our efforts on improving audio capabilities, and this is an area that we are investing in heavily, and it's immediately on the roadmap. Okay, so how can I optimize Arc's audio playback? If you would like to optimize for playback, there's 3 things you can do. The first is to disable volume leveling. The second would be to set your streaming quality preferences to original format to ensure you're getting the highest quality possible. And then lastly, just check the playback quality settings directly. You can use Signal Path to see exactly what's happening to your audio at every step in the flow, in case you have any doubts.
So it's important to call out that with Roon 2.0 and the release of Arc, this is just the beginning. Our mission was to create an app which allows you to listen to your Roon while on the go. We've done that with Arc, and now there's a very exciting and a very bright future ahead of us. We have a massive list of suggestions and work that we've planned, so I want to give you guys a little bit of insight into what's coming around the corner for Roon Arc. The first of which is audio improvements. This includes DSP, how Roon handles audio specifically on Android, and a lot more. So that is our main focus. We want to make Roon Arc the absolute best quality and best experience. So that's our first priority. Secondarily, CarPlay. We want Roon Arc to feel like a native app. We're developing a native app for Roon Arc to work directly with CarPlay, and that's in the works and currently under development right now. Beyond that, there's a lot of work that we have planned, and it's going to be a very exciting next few months, quarters, years for Roon Arc. But please tell us where you'd like to see Roon Arc go. If you have any suggestions, feel free to drop them in our community. Otherwise, reach out to us on socials, emails, etc. We're all ears, and we are definitely paying attention and importing those into our process. Hopefully now that you've learned a bit more about Roon Arc, you will want to try it for yourselves. We've created a wealth of resources for Roon Arc available on our Help Center website, and our tech support team is also available on community to help answer any questions you may have. Awesome. That wraps up the first half of our webinar. I'd like to open things up now for a Q&A.
Hey everyone. First of all, thanks for attending. Hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. I can see a lot of active questions in the Q&A, so thanks for submitting those. I have earmarked a couple of them here. So the first one, we talked about CarPlay just a little bit right now, but yes, we're working on it. It's on the roadmap, super high priority, actively in development right now. We've heard your considerations for that, and that's really a high priority for us. So yeah, CarPlay is in the works. So this one is an interesting question. Why is Arc a separate app? First of all, we have, if you kind of rewind to before my time at the company, we just had one team that was just working on Roon development. And so if we said, okay, we'd like to focus development on Arc, first of all, there's a code base that comes with all of its kind of legacy, historical considerations, problems which are only unique to Roon as a desktop, server client application. Whereas if you have something like Arc, it has a totally different set of concerns that don't necessarily apply to Roon. So the first kind of consideration was we want to dedicate a full team that is absolutely focused on this, and we want to be kind of free of the legacy considerations that came with Roon. So one of those considerations is that Roon, actually, we have built a homegrown UI language, which basically means it's kind of like if you're a carpenter, let's say, and you want to build a table, it means you have to build every hammer, every nail, that you don't get anything for free. So you have to, make all of your tools yourself. And with with ARC's app, we were able to use an existing UI interface and language, Flutter, which helps us iterate, build much faster. So we spun up a new team for it. We did want to be free of kind of legacy and Roon specific considerations. And also the new UI framework that we're working in lets us operate a lot faster and use existing tools. So that's the long and short of why ARC is a separate app. Okay, I saw a question in there about basically I would like to use ARC on various form factors, be it tablets or desktop or Chromebooks, etc. Yeah, we've heard these considerations loud and clear. I know a lot of you are looking to use ARC specifically from tablets. So kind of in order of priorities, we're definitely interested in exploring more form factors. I would say tablets probably the first stop along that road, and then larger screens like desktop applications would be secondary. Yeah, no firm time commitment to that. It's kind of in design land right now. The team and I is working on that. But yeah, that's how those considerations are playing out. Okay. There was an interesting question that basically said, Glenn said, when I go to library and click on albums, I don't see a download button. So just want to kind of bring attention once more to ARC's download structure. And I'll talk a little bit about the legal ramifications and why we kind of got to this position. But in ARC, you can only download local content, which actually sits on your core. So content that you actually own. And this was a legal kind of ramification that we were dealing with. Basically, the streaming services don't have the legal authority. They have an agreement with all of the labels which supply the music, and they don't have the legal authority to extend download privileges to other third-party services who are kind of working with those streaming services. So thereby, we don't have the legal right to allow users to download directly from Tidal. So once again, it's content which you have on your core. Okay, so then the problem becomes, I'm looking at my browsers, like let's say I'm looking at my albums browser, and I'd like to be able to tell what I can download. So right now, I would advise the best workaround would be to go to your tags. Like let's say you go on your Roon desktop and create a tag that's, you filter by storage location, isolate all of your local locations and add a tag. That's one way. It's kind of suboptimal, and we're definitely aware of that. And so we're working on a feature which much more elegantly will point you to your downloadable content with just a few clicks. So yeah, that's a seam in the application that we're aware of and are working actively on tackling right now. So thanks for bringing that up. Apple Watch app, we're thinking about it. I hear you. Yell at me louder, get your friends to start yelling at me, and that could be a reality. I think if there's enough noise, we could go down that route. I think the CarPlay and Android Auto are the first stops along that road, and then Apple Watch could be an interesting place to go after. Because once we've started working in these kind of limited, Apple gives you a toolkit to build their Apple app. We're getting some reps in now in that process. So it could be that's a shorter hop for us to make than it seems. But yeah, please let us know if you're interested in Apple Watch. Okay, let's talk about handoffs and zones and how all of this works in ARC. So I'm listening to music in ARC in my car, and then I come home, I walk in my front door, I've got my living room set up, I've got my library set up, my kitchen set up, all these various zones. right now, the way that ARC works is that ARC maintains its own queue, and Roon, as a desktop application, maintains its own zones. So right now they're separate. So what I can advise, there's two kind of solutions that you have to this problem. The first is that you have, once again, the data that you see in ARC is the same data that you have in Roon. So you can go to your recently played in ARC and see, oh, cool, I was listening to this in my living room. Let me just hop back in and listen to this Grizzly Bear album or what have you. So that will update in real time. So, and that's a two-way street. So if you're listening to something in Roon, boom, you hop over to your Roon desktop setup and you can just pick up where you left off. So that's one aspect of it. And the other aspect is the output switcher. So if you noticed, when we first released ARC, we did not have a way to natively select which output you are playing from on your mobile device. So now at the bottom of the now playing screen, we've got that kind of, trademark iOS or Android icon, which lets you open up the system's output switcher and select. If you're on iOS, it'll give you AirPlay, Bluetooth devices, any wired outputs you might have, so USB audio, any DACs you may have plugged in, etc. And same thing for Android. So yes, those are the kind of ways you can overcome that. Those were the questions that stuck out to me immediately, so I'm just going to kind of take a second, go through the rest here. So Neil has a question about multiple headphone setups on the go and accessing filters, which would adjust EQs, basically a bunch of DSP stuff. Thank you, Neil. This is immediately on our roadmap. We're actively designing features for supporting EQ, for supporting various DSP settings. This is where we want ARC to go. ARC needs to be very good at this. So all of these, pretty much everything you've named in here is on our radar, things we're discussing and actively designing. Apple Watch for sure. Okay, good to know. I'll thumbs upping that, taking mental notes of that. We talked a bit already about Roon's remote app versus ARC. Yes, we'd like to integrate zone switching in the future. It is the ultimate vision to have ARC as being able to access all of the existing Roon zones. It's just one of the kind of considerations that we had. It was a long haul. It took us about a year to develop ARC. So, I mean, ARC's development even predated my joining the company. But there was a lot of trade-offs we had to make and a lot of kind of tough calls and, babies that were on the table that had to be discussed in order to get ARC reality. So I think one of the things to keep in mind for us is our utmost focus was giving you a way to listen to your Roon library on the go. That was goal one. So make your Roon mobile. And then we wanted to get that out the door and into your hands. I think that's the first most important thing. And then everything else is kind of coming after. So now we're, like I mentioned, CarPlay's on the roadmap, increased DSP and audio support is on the roadmap. We've talked about tablet as a potential way we could go. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of exciting projects which we have firmly on the roadmap now. And beyond that, our ears are perked and we're certainly listening. So yeah, please keep the suggestions coming. What would be the best portable speaker to use when playing music remotely on Wi-Fi or cellular with FLAC file format? I feel a little out of my depth with this one. I am probably going to buy some of the Blue Sound stuff. I would recommend going there. There's rumors about a new Apple HomePod, which also sounds intriguing, but there's there's guys within the Roon team who are much more qualified for that one. I wouldn't come to me for that. I'm the studio guy. Anything for Teslas? Possibly. I would, keep banging down our doors about that. That's an interesting route we could go. Focus. Thank you. Thank you for the focus question. Yeah, focus is on our radar. It's a tricky one because focus is it's a decently complex feature, and it takes up a good amount of real estate on the Roon desktop application. So right now we're thinking about a lot of ways which we can kind of shrink focus down into an elegant form factor, and also kind of critically think about, is there more fun stuff we can do with focus? So that's in the hopper. That's something we're actively thinking about. Yeah, that's we would like to do that. Can we help link Neil with a fellow from CanJam Social? Will ARC introduce a feature to download converted versions in order to save storage space? Yeah, this is a really good point. Right now, once again, kind of trade-offs about getting you useful features in version 1 that accomplishes the goal, and then kind of making them more delicious as the feature rolls on. So yes, I hear you. Right now, you're able to download any audio in its original format to your device. In the future, it would be very nice to be able to, basically the way we're thinking about this is to apply your transcode settings to any files that you're downloading. So you could grab that if you have a DSD, we could transcode that all the way down to, 320 Opus, etc. Yeah, that's in the hopper as well. Again, a lot of stuff to do, limited time, but that's on the roadmap. Daniel asked about importing Shazam playlists, maybe Soundies. I'm not entirely sure. We might have someone in the house who's a better resource for that. Tesla app +1. Okay, good to know. Okay. So Jack, I'll just speak a little bit to the problem you're talking about with Cobus playlists. You'll be able to see all of your playlists that you have in Roon in ARC. What you're talking about is maybe being able to kind of slice and dice my data so that I can say, boom, these playlists came from Cobus, or these came from Tidal, or these are local. All of that would kind of fall under the focus conversation for us. So yeah, like I said, that's something we'd like to improve. We'd like to make that easier, but rest assured, they're on there now, so you should be able to access those. If it's a matter of figuring out where the buttons are, where the features are, I'm sure support could be of help. Steve asked about external SD cards as download locations. Oh yeah, 2 parts there. So the first question is, where is ARC downloading your files? Those files are stored in a private folder in the app, and they're not accessible from outside. So they're self-contained within the application. Like if you go to, for example, I use iOS, and you can look at your apps and you can see all of the size of those apps. And it's just basically a folder that we construct the app in, and it contains all of your data within that, not accessible from the outside. And then the second component to that. So let's talk a little bit about the download quality conundrum. There's users who want to have as many delicious, beautiful, lossless files as they can on their device. And those people are kind of all the way on the audiophile side of the spectrum. And then there's people that are maybe willing to compromise on audio quality to kind of Tetris in as many files as they can on their device. And so on this side of the spectrum, that would be enabling download quality transcoding for these folks. And then over here, it would be supporting external SD cards or additional storage, etc. So it's yeah, there's multiple directions we could go there. I think we're thinking about it, but I don't have any hard answers as to if that's going to land on the roadmap or not. But we certainly, I hear you there. I hear you. Morton asked about an ARC web interface. I'd put that under the tablet desktop app consideration. If there's enough demand for it, it could be somewhere we go. For now, we're looking to expand it to tablet for sure. Desktop, web, possibly, but no official commitment there. Okay. It looks like that's pretty much it. So I think we'll leave things there. Thank you guys so much for attending. If you are a not subscribed customer to Roon right now, if you just go to our website, you'll be able to sign up for a 14-day free trial, and then you can set up your Roon and access ARC and kind of dive into all of these things that we've just talked about today. So thank you all very much.